Today we are here with a 2007 Mitsubishi Colt Plus. This one has the 1.4 liter turbocharged engine. And the complaint with this baby is there is no speedometer. I've already confirmed the complaint. I don't need to show you that. You just drive it, speedo does nothing. Now, I don't have the wiring diagrams for this particular vehicle, but the owner of this has really begged and he wants me to look at it. And he told me, just see what you can do. And he's the owner of a garage that I normally do diagnosis for. So I told him, okay, let me just look at it. But if I need to go into wiring diagrams, we will need to wait because I am not going to guess and do a hack job. So he said, fine. He just wants me to look at it. So I don't know if we'll do much with it. So here is what I propose we do. The Colt Plus is a uniquely Japanese product. So this is a JDM car, has no European variant. But the Colt has the Japanese variant and the Euro variant. I have the wiring diagrams for the Colt. Now, they will not help me with this because they are not exactly identical, but a few things are the same. The ECU is the same and the ABS module is the same. And the technology, overall technology, is the same. So I want to see from the Euro diagrams where the speedo gets its information from. I have an idea because Mitsubishi have not changed their tech much over the years. From what I know is the ABS takes the speed sensors and then relays them on the CAN for the rest of the computers. Actually, now that I'm saying that, I've got a couple of things we can test right here with the scan tool and just eliminate based on what we find and then see where to go. Alright, so the car is running and first thing I want to see is whether we have tach, which we do. That is excellent. Now, even without a wiring diagram, guys, what you should do is just collect data as much as possible. Let me first tell you what he has told me. He told me that they opened the meter. They had wanted to just put another meter to see if the meter was the problem, but they couldn't get one, so they just put this one back. I just want to show you guys, before doing anything, slow down and just think logically. You see, the more we progress, I think things have become so easy for us in the world that we are just not doing much critical thinking. Slow down, gather your data, collect your thoughts together. Had this garage done that, they should not even have opened this meter. I'm just going to show you here in a minute. So we have scanned the car and these are all the modules that we have. So the first thing I want to see is my meter functional? So let's come here to meter and we are going to, there are no fault codes in anything. Let's go to the data stream and the first thing I want to see, actually no, let's go to the actuation test. I want to see if my speedo is working. So here we see that we have got a couple of actuations. You can put your speed meter at 0. It's already at 0. I don't know why they would put that there. You can put your speed meter at 40. Oh, I know why this is here. I've seen cases where the speedo has hung at a place, like it just hangs at 60. So you do this to see if the speedo goes down to 0. If you do that and the speedo goes down to 0, then it means that there is an actual reading that it's reading, that it's strapping it at whatever speed it's hanging on. So here we're going to come to 40 and 100, and I just want to see if our speedo can accept input. So let me focus here. First, let me pick 40. And here we can perform. So let me focus here, and then we're going to perform. We are performing. Give it a while. And there we go to 40. Okay, so let's come here and exit. And when you exit, we go back down. Now let's come to 100. and let's perform. And there we go to 100. Nice. And we are slightly off calibration. That's one thing, but that's not why I'm here. So let me exit and go back to 0. So what does that tell us? That test alone should tell me there is nothing I'm doing here. I'm not touching this. I'm not opening it. I'm not substituting it or anything. There's nothing wrong with my meter. Is there anybody else who can see the wheel speed? Let's back out of here, and I want us to go to the ABS module, because the ABS gets its wheel speed and then converts that to speed and throws it on the network. So we can come to data stream. Let's pick the speed sensors. Speed. And here we have our 4 sensors. And what I'm going to do is just move the car in front and move it back and see whether we have any reading on the RPM. So now this is in RPM, not actual speed, but remember, this is converted internally by the ABS and then thrown on the network. Okay, I'm ready for the test. Let's put this on drive, and let me set my tablet like this so that it doesn't fall down. So I'm just going to move in front, just in the garage. I'm not going anywhere, just moving in front and back, and I want to see whether we have RPMs on each of the wheels. And since I'm going straight, we should be relatively the same. So that's front, and let us hit reverse, and let's go reverse. Okay, now that tells me my ABS, not only is it able to recognize the RPM, but I am reading this on the network. So my ABS has network output. Okay, what else can we do now? Let us put this in park first. Now let's come out of here, and I want to see now, is there anybody else that can see this speed? Let's first come to the meter, and we're going to read the data. And let me take Speedo here. So here we have speedometer. We're going to hit that, say okay. Here it shows a flat 5 kilometers per hour. All right, now I'm going to put it in drive again. Let's go in front and see whether we are going to change our speed. So here we go. So that's forward, and then we go reverse. And nothing is happening. So we know that our meter is not getting a speedo signal. So it's defaulted to 5 kilometers per hour. Okay, now what is next? We'll come out of here. Let's go to the engine computer. I'm just looking at things which need the speedometer input. So here's the engine computer. And let's go to the data stream, and let's look for speed. So we got engine speed, and we've got speed sensor and vehicle speed. So let's grab all these. Of course we have engine speed, I know that because our tach is up, but we have these two, speed sensor and vehicle speed. So let's do the same thing. Put this in drive and set my tablet there. Let's go in front and Let's reverse. We have no signal coming from the network. So this is cool. No network signal that is registering speed. But is there anybody who can see this speed? Okay, let's get out of here and let's look for a module that needs speed. Who else needs the speed? The electric power steering needs speed, because electric power steering has to know how fast you're going and it changes the torque depending on speed. So let's go to the data stream and we're going to pick engine speed and let's look for speed. I want vehicle speed. There we go. Now look at this. Oh, I thought there was no speed. Okay, so now we have engine speed. That's good. Let's see if we can get any vehicle speed here. Put that in drive. All right, let's move the vehicle in front. And put it in reverse. Let's move back. And check that out. We do have speed, vehicle speed, being registered on this computer. So by these tests right here, what have I concluded? I've concluded that our ABS module is fine. Our ABS module is accepting wheel speed. Our ABS module is converting the wheel speed to vehicle speed and dumping it on the network, because our power steering computer can pick the speed from the network, but our engine computer can't see the speed. Therefore, we have an interruption in the network between the engine computer and the ABS computer. Guys, how cool is that? That is a very quick test. I've not hooked up anything, just used my scan tool and my big old brain in my head, and I already know we are dealing with a wiring issue on the CAN network. I don't have the CAN network for this computer, but let's go to the Euro diagrams and see what the Colt is set up as, and then we can infer some stuff from there. So now that we've gathered our information, we know that we have some type of miscommunication in these modules. Everything is working fine as far as the modules are concerned, but the cross communication is a problem. Now the question I have is, if he cannot see the ABS, why isn't he setting a code for the ABS? The answer could be that maybe it's not programmed to set a code for the ABS. But the other question is, how come we can see all these modules here, but there's potentially a problem between ABS and the engine computer? Because that's what I think there is, or ABS and meter. How come we're able to see all of them here? Well, the answer is, on the wiring diagram, I want to look for a direct line from the DLC to the engine computer. If the engine computer has a direct line to the DLC, then even if we have a discontinuity between the ABS and the engine computer, we can still see it at the DLC. So let's go to the wiring diagram here. I want to look for the engine control system, And here's the engine control system. And let's go to the CAN network section. And here it is. Okay, so we have, yes, this is what we have. So we have the engine ECU, and then we've got the electronic power steering ECU, and the combination meter, and the ABS ECU. And you can see here, input signal from front wheel speed sensor and rear speed sensor is coming to the ASC ECU, which is the ABS. So the ABS gets this, converts it to speed, throws it on the network. Power steering is seeing that signal. Combination meter is not seeing that signal. Engine computer is not seeing that signal. Now we can't use this wiring diagram because it's not the same as our car, but look at this. We have on the engine ECU a direct communication to the diagnostic connector. So this is the CAN network, okay? And this is the network strictly for the engine computer and the SRS. And by the way, the other thing I've noticed is we don't have SRS showing up on this list for some weird reason. That's another red flag. But if we have a direct communication here to the DLC, could it be that instead of us using the CAN, we are actually communicating to this ECU on the DLC pin 11? Before doing anything, let me get a breakout box, my bob, and put it here. And I want to scope pin 11, and I want to see each time I communicate to the engine computer, am I using CAN or am I using pin 11 and pin 7? So pin 7 and 11. And that will tell me what's going on. All right, I have connected my bob to the DLC, and I've connected my scan tool to the bob. Now I'll give you some info about this bob that I have noticed. This bob has got LED lights on the sides over here, and when there's activity, those lights light up. Like you see here, that's pin 16. We got battery voltage, so that's red. This we've got a ground, so that is lit up. Then these others are supposed to flash when there's communication through them. However, I have noticed something about this bob is that the CAN LEDs never light up when there's CAN communication. It simply means that the LEDs they've put here were 12 volt LEDs, and CAN network doesn't go up to that much, so there isn't enough voltage to drive those LEDs. So whenever we have CAN communication here, you'll not see any activity at all on the bob. But when we have any other communication protocols on any other pins, we'll see those pins flash. Now remember, we on the engine computer are connected to two things. We're connected to the CAN, and we're also connected to pin 7, that is a SIL, and pin 11 here. So we should see communication here if we're not using the CAN. If you're using the CAN, you won't see anything. So now let's come to our scan tool, and what I want to pick is first the ABS module. So I'm going to do that, and I'm communicating, and I want you to check this out. You see there's nothing happening there, which means we are communicating over CAN, and as you can see, we are already in that module. Now let's exit out of here, and I want to go to my engine computer. Now we are going in that module, and check this out. We are communicating via pin 7 on the SIL line on the engine computer. That is cool. So the engine computer is confirmed. The reason why we are seeing it here is because we are not communicating via CAN. We are communicating via the SIL line, and it's doing a PCM communication. Now the other thing I want to see is how the network looks like on that CAN. But I already know it's good because Actually, I don't even need to go over there. I know it's good because I can see my data for everything that's communicating on the CAN. And just again, to be sure of something, let me exit out of here. And I want to go to my electronic power steering and see which protocol it's using to communicate, because I'm sure it's also using CAN. Okay, so let's go to the electronic power steering. That is over here. And check this out. No activity. That tells me we're already in. Tells me we are communicating via CAN. And CAN is much faster. If you can see, exiting in and out of this is quick, but exiting in and out with that is slow. Now I'm interested to see what are we communicating with the meter. Hit that and let's check this out. No lights. We're already in there. And check out the speed at which we enter and exit. Okay, so let's exit out of here. Look at that exit. Very quick. Now let's compare again with the entry and exit speed of the engine computer. So let's select that. And this should show you the difference in speed between CAN and all other protocols. See, we are in. Now let's try and exit here. See how slow it takes to exit. You see that? This is because we are not using CAN on that engine computer. And we're still exiting. Then it'll just go back to the menu. So I don't have to show you that. Okay, there it is. Since we know that we are not communicating via CAN here, my question is, how come the engine computer is not giving us a code for not seeing the ABS? It should give us a code. My suspicion is that it's probably not coded for that. But what I want to do is go and quickly disconnect the ABS module and then come in here and see if we flag a code. All right, there is our ABS connector disconnected, and that connector is a real pisser to get to because look at the amount of space I have there, or the lack of it thereof. Okay, let's go back in. So now that my ABS is disconnected, I want to take another health report and I want to see who populates on the network and who is complaining about the ABS. All right, we've set a couple of codes. Let's look at them. So let's start with ABS. Sorry, not ABS, but engine computer. Let's read the fault code. And it says here battery backup line system and then ABS timeout. So this tells me that the engine computer can see the ABS. That is interesting. Okay, let's go out and then let's look at another computer here. Power steering. Of course, I expect ABS can timeout. Okay. And then the e-tax. ABS can timeout. So at this point in time, I am pretty baffled. That's not what I was expecting. I was expecting that the ABS does not get registered by the engine computer. But since the engine computer is showing a communication fault with ABS, not only is it seeing the ABS, but it means that it is only getting that from the CAN network. Unless there's another communication network for the ABS. Let me look in the wiring diagram for the ABS and see if there's another communication network between the ABS and the engine computer. Well, I've checked. There is no other communication network between the engine computer and the ABS. It's just the CAN network. Okay, I cannot think of anything else to test at this point in time. We've tested the CAN network. It's working. It's sending and receiving messages. It's just that the speedo signal itself isn't being interpreted by the dash and by the engine computer. At this point, I have to sit this one out and see if I can get the wiring diagram from Japan. Something else is going on here that I'm missing with these Euro diagrams. So we'll put this on pause until I get the Japanese wiring diagrams. We are back here 4 weeks later, and this time I got the wiring diagrams. So let's see what we have. Let's go to a quick translation here. And let's go to 2007. And let's go to the wiring diagrams. And we translate again. So these are schematics. So what we saw is we don't have a speed signal on the engine control computer, but we do have it on the electronic power steering. Let's first go to the electronic power steering and see where it gets its speed signal from. All right. Here we have the EPS ECU. It's on CAN with the engine computer, and we have our crank angle sensor, so that's where it gets its RPM from that we're reading from it. Let's go to the second page, and there is the EPS ECU again. Torque sensor is integrated in it, and it's on CAN with the ABS ECU, and it gets its wheel speed from the wheel speed sensors through the ABS ECU. So this we know. That is why we don't have a problem here. But let's go now to the engine, no, to the meter, pointer meter. And here are our pointers: fuel, tachometer, and speed. I don't know what this TGA is. And these are communicating via CAN, just like we saw before. And then we have the ETAX ECU, that's the body computer. And let's go to the second page, see what the inputs are. So the inputs are the coolant temp, crank angle, that's for the RPM. And check this out. The combination meter does not get its speed from the ABS module. It gets it from the secondary speed sensor at the transmission. And that goes into the engine and CVT ECU. Very interesting. So that's what we did not know. So now that we know that, what I want to see is, do we have a secondary speed at the transmission side of the engine computer? Right, we're in the system. Key is on. Now let's go to the transmission control module. And let's read the data stream. And we're going to pick our speed sensors. We've got the primary, secondary, and the turbine. And there they are. They're in RPM. I'm going to start the car, and I expect the turbine speed to come on immediately when you start the car, because that reads the back of the torque converter. And right now it is reading 800 RPM. Very nice. And of course the secondary and primary should be 0. We drop it in gear, this should go to 0, and then we start driving. Now we should get the speed increases on all of them. And remember, this is the one that the engine control module looks at to get the speed from. So let me put it here. We're going to put it in drive. And when we do that, our turbine speed should go to 0, which it does, because the torque converter right now is frozen. At least the turbine is frozen. Now let's start moving, and we're going to see whether we have an RPM signal on all those. Okay, so here we go. And check that out. We do have an RPM signal. So let me go back. All right, we're back in the bay. So we do have an RPM signal on all of them when we are driving. Now we're at a crossroads. Interesting. Now, let me go back here and tell you something. From the wiring diagram, we know that these two are the same module. It's just that they're two different microprocessors, one for the CVT and one for the engine computer. This is seeing the speed sensor, but this is not seeing the speed sensor. There are only two possibilities here, and our next test is going to be our final test, and it'll tell us exactly what's wrong with this car. Either we do not have an actual speed signal and the computer is generating a synthetic signal and injecting it into the network, which I've seen that happen before, or we actually have a speed signal which is only being read by this portion of the module but is not being read by this portion of the module. How do we separate the two? The only way is to go to the module directly and to see whether all our three inputs for the speed sensors are there. So we're going to take the turbine speed, primary speed, secondary speed. If we see all the signals present at the module, we are done. We have a bad engine control module. But if we see a missing signal from the secondary, then it means what we are seeing in the scanner is a signal being generated by the microprocessor. It's not an actual signal. So let's go and release the engine computer. It's in a very bad place. We're going to dismantle everything, and then we're going to proceed. Ho ho ho, mother of pearl. Guys, when I tell you, be very careful who you take your cars to for repair and for diagnosis, I'm not kidding. So it took a while to get all this junk out of here. There's the airbox, there is a harness here that you have to unclip nicely, and that's our engine computer. So I've just released it from its brackets, and you will not believe this. Check that out. How cool is that? This engine computer was opened up, but it was opened up by cutting it like this. The whole section was cut out, and this was removed. Something was done in here, put back, and then has been JB welded around. Just when you think you've seen it all. Man, I love my job. I see stuff like this every single day. So after seeing this, I am actually 99.999% sure that this is messed up. This has been tampered with. But I need to finish my diagnosis correctly. So let me get all my speed sensor inputs here, and we're going to finish this nicely. But we're basically done. Look at this. Let's go to the transmission control, and we're sport mode. And let's go to our speed sensors. Here they are. I haven't translated this, but trust me. This is the turbine speed. This is the secondary speed, and this is the primary speed. And they all come to engine control and CVT ECU. Pin 44, 45, 43, and our wire colors are blue red, blue yellow, and blue green respectively. Let's go and probe those. Alright, finished probing. I've got 4 channels. I decided to add the crank sensor in one of the channels. So crank sensor is channel 1. The turbine speed is channel 2. Channel 3 here is the primary speed, and channel 4 there, which is our main concern, is the secondary speed. Let me put the battery back and we go to the Pico. Alright, our picoscope is running, and I just put this in gear, and you can see that our pulleys have gone down, which they're supposed to. And now let's just drive a bit. You don't even have to go very far. And as you can see, all our pulleys, all our speed sensors are showing. So we are done. We have a bad ECU. Back at the shop, let's close this out. Now I'm sure somebody is wondering, why did it take me 4 weeks to diagnose this car? The answer, I needed a wiring diagram. Then you may wonder, why couldn't you just have inspected the ECU? My answer to that is, what was I going to do there? You need to remember that I follow evidence. There was no evidence from my diagnosis that was leading me to an ECU problem. All I saw was we had wheel speed at the electronic power steering, but we had no wheel speed at the engine computer. And the CAN network, by elimination, was good. That's all I knew. I needed to find out more data. What I needed to know is this signal for this speedometer actually coming from the same source as the electronic power steering? That's why I needed to wait for the wiring diagram. And when I got the wiring diagram, we saw that in the Colt that we were using, the wiring diagrams, that speed was coming only from the wheel speed sensors. But in this car, it's coming from the transmission, a secondary speed sensor. Then once I knew that, then I knew to check the secondary speed sensor at the transmission side of the ECU. This is evidence-based. You don't just do things willy-nilly. There was no evidence for me to even look at the engine computer. Once I saw that discrepancy at the transmission control, then I knew I need to look at the engine computer. And that's when I saw the carnage at the engine computer. It's all about evidence, guys. And let me ask you a question. What if what we saw on the cover was not there? This one is pretty easy. Look at the cover and you can see somebody has been tampering in there. Definitely, most likely, the engine computer has failed. But what if that engine computer was fine? What do you do next? It's all about following the evidence. And I followed my evidence and I'm done with this. Colt plus bad ECU causing a dead Speedo. If he gets a new engine computer, then I'll bring you back for a closeout. Otherwise, I am done. Another one for the books. Until next time. And we are back with another unit all the way from Japan. Could not find one locally. So let's go and install it, and then we'll see if this works. I don't think these ones had any security, but we'll find out. If they do have security, we'll have to unsecure this unit. So let's go put it in. Okay, ECU is installed. There is our funky old one. And let's see, it'll fire up. And it fires up like a charm. So that's one thing I love about these Japanese cars. No security in the ECU, plug and play, no problem. So let's see if we have speedometer, and then we're going to come back and scan this unit. Oh, a bit of a harsh engagement. I don't know if that's the ECU or the car. So let's see. Oh, we still don't have speedo. Okay.